think it's a very unique experience because even explaining like the idea that the island has two different countries technically combined into one, and that it's just, there's not really a border control and you can just do the island in like 45 minutes without traffic. I think it's just a very special place. You could go to St. Bart's, Anguilla. We have our own little private islands off the coast of St. Maarten. It's just, oh my gosh, incomparable to any childhood, any growing up story, coming of age, like shit. Our lives are movies, guys. Like,
I know. We are brought to you by the Renaissance Society. If you're sick of the news or looking for a fresh take on life, or maybe you just want to support a local writer, check out the Renaissance Society. It is my personal blog where I write about St. Maarten local issues, global politics, financial management, personal experiences, and self-improvement. I post content twice a month, usually on Mondays. If you're interested in checking it out, head over to my main page at harshaparchani.com. That is HARSHAPARCHANI.com. See you there. Welcome to the Chatterbox with your host, Nicole Parchani. Today, I have with me the OG squad, Princess Ninja Squad, introducing Rachael. Rachael, say hello to the people.
Oh my God, hello.
Jakisha, say what's up, what's up.
What's going on to the people now?
And last but certainly not least, Alanda, coming through the telephone.
Well, it's Landa Panda here with the cringiest introduction ever.
Well, I'm so happy to have you guys here. Like, it means so much to me to have my very best friends on my very first episode of my podcast. Like, I'm so excited to be here. And I'm curious, do you guys remember, like, how we all met?
Learning Unlimited easily. That is how I was introduced to Harsha, because I did not know Harsha before the time.
Yeah, Harsha, I knew you from like 4th grade.
Yeah, 4th grade from Montessori.
Yeah, and Jay, we met in 6th grade as well. Alanda, I don't know if I knew you before.
Well, we knew each other from before, from like Danielle and like, the Dawn Beach things.
True. But yeah, mainly from school.
And I feel like, Rachael, like we were, I don't know, you, because I was at Montessori before you came to that school. And like, I feel like we just clicked because our parents knew each other from back in the day. So we were like, oh, that's cool. And we're like, we'll be friends. And then, I don't know, we just been a squad ever since.
Yeah, we migrated to LU, and that's when we met Jakisha, who I will say did not like me in the beginning.
Yeah, it was a little.
Anyways, moving on.
Looking back at it, like I loved high school. I loved our class. Like our class was made up of so many dope individuals, like different personalities, so diverse. But I'm also glad I'm not in there because the bureaucracy was just a bit toxic, just a smidgen. But
hey, we made it out alive.
Made it out alive, indeed. And I wanted to talk to you guys about what it was like living on St. Maarten, because growing up on an island is like a pretty unique experience. And I feel like people don't really share a lot about like what it's like living on, well, St. Maarten, especially being a unique island in it that it's divided by 2 countries, has 2 separate government systems. People that live there are from all over the world, speak so many different languages. And that creates a pretty interesting mix of people. I think it made us dope for sure. So what was it like for you guys growing up on the island? But I know, Alanda, your journey was a little different, right?
Oh, is it because I'm an illegal
Alien.
Is it because I'm an immigrant? Is that what you're inferring, Rasha?
I mean, you immigrated. It's a different journey. I'm totally open to hearing what the process was like being an immigrant to St. Martin versus, you know, the three of us that were
Yeah.
She's a loser.
born there.
Oh, wow, guys. First of all, I'll have you know that my grandmother is from St. Martin, and she's a Kagan. So you don't know. Boop, boop. I'm still a St. Martiner. Anyway, so am I going to begin? Is this what we're doing?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Start up. How was it like immigrating? When did you even move to St. Martin?
I moved to St. Martin when I was like 2 dogs. Like, I have no recollection of my life before that. And it was more like struggling with the fact that I wasn't born in St. Martin, but I didn't live in St. Lucia. And so it was a bit hard to adjust to that fact. So quite often, yeah, you know, we would joke about I'm an immigrant, I can't relate, this and that. But it was actually a struggle to think like, oh, fuck, I'm not really from here, but I'm also not really from there. So
Damn, did we traumatize you?
No, you didn't traumatize me. I think it was a combination. Well, I mean, if you did traumatize me, you guys can pay for my therapy. I'm very much okay with that. I take payments in therapy. But no, it was just genuinely growing up in St. Martin was still quite similar to how you guys grew up. I think it was a privilege to grow up in St. Martin actually, rather than St. Lucia, just because of the amount of nationalities on one landmass. You know, St. Martin is only 87 kilometers, which is 37 square miles, obviously. And I don't know, I just feel like it gave me a lot of perspective and understanding and intercultural, like, knowledge.
Cultural intelligence.
You know, it's true, because you come up to the Netherlands and you're like, okay, you know, you go to an international school, and it's still not as international as what I feel in St. Martin we had the privilege of growing up around.
For sure.
That's how I view it. I think it's a very unique experience, because even explaining like the idea that the island has two different countries technically combined into one, and that it's just, you know, there's not really a border control, and you can just do the island in like 45 minutes without traffic. I think it's just a very special place. You could go to St. Bart's, Anguilla. We have our own little private islands off the coast of St. Martin. It's just, oh my gosh, it's incomparable to any childhood, any growing up story, coming of age, like shit. Our lives are movies, guys. Like,
I know. I guess, like, was there a difference for you, like, having family both on the Dutch and French side?
There wasn't really much of a difference. To me, St. Martin is one island, one country, one nation, one people, you know? I don't really see borders physically. Like, obviously, we do have borders, but I don't really see them. You know, it doesn't really affect me.
Yeah, our border is pretty much just it's there for the paper, but it's just non-existent really in just your day-to-day life. What about you, Rachel? How was it for you growing up on St. Martin?
I mean, just like them, I'm grateful that I'm able to grow up in an environment where, yeah, it was very diverse. I think a lot of our diversity also came from tourism and the amount of people that we interact with on a daily, locally, and visitors and all that. The things we got to do, we did take for granted in a sense, because we come over here and we start living like this adult life, and we get back home and we're like, shit, like we never really realized, you know, like we did have the beach right there at our disposal, and we did have like to be able to go here and do this and do that, you know, have a freedom to an extent. And yeah, it was a blessing, and I'm grateful.
I feel like it's interesting.
It was more like slack on us. Like most, because we were able to like leave campus to go get food somewhere. Like people up here, they like in high school. Like I know high schoolers, they can't do none of that. Like we had beach cleanup. I'm pretty sure they had none of that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to also take into account the environment. We're on an island, so what is there to clean is like beaches and all that, you know?
It's interesting because when I grew up on the island, I always loved, St. Martin, because I mean, yeah, the business, the tourism for sure. Like my dad was a small business owner, and just seeing like the markets and just how people, communicate and can work together, and seeing the beauty of what the good things of what diversity brings to the table. I think like people take for granted. Like for us, we grew up eating food from all different cultures every day. That wasn't like weird. And it wasn't even that we were just eating their food. We were eating the best of their food. You know what I mean? Because we had top chefs from all over the world. And for us, I feel like seeing people that didn't look like us or didn't necessarily grow up the same way we did or have family that has different religions allowed, at least like when I went to the States, like I never was concerned about who I was meeting because I just saw the person. Like I was used to seeing people that weren't like me, that didn't think like me, that maybe didn't speak very good English. And as a result, it made it easier for me to move through the world because I could understand different types of people. Whereas like I see peers of mine like here in the States that they only grew up with people that look like them, that think like them, that talk like them. And you can see how it in some way cripples their ability to associate with the rest of the world. And, that can be really detrimental to someone's ability to grow. And it's something that I didn't realize was such a big superpower about growing up there. But at the same time, it's like there were things about, growing up on St. Martin that wasn't always great. And you realize like how far behind we are when you leave and you go and see what the rest of the world is doing, even in terms of just the technology that they use or the things that they take for granted that we look at as though that's the magical stuff that we will never have because of our infrastructure and the way that things are going. And I guess like what was the biggest thing that you saw when you went abroad that you wished you had in St. Martin but doesn't like currently exist?
It is the simplest thing.
I feel like you're gonna say internet.
No, I wish. No, public transportation that has a stop button, has a timetable, has designated stop signs. Holy shit! You don't have to yell across the bus and go like, "Hey, bus stop!"
Bus stop.
Yo, the anxiety. You're like, yo,
is he gonna stop?
You're thinking through your mind. You're like, I gotta stay. How am I gonna stay? Am I gonna say bus? Please stop.
Yeah.
Am I gonna say bus driver? Please stop. You're there like, am I gonna say with a really, really, really raw accent?
Yeah.
Am I gonna try?
Or
No,
like,
I know these people.
bus stop, please.
Yeah, you really gotta prep yourself for the stop, right? Because otherwise they're just gonna keep going.
You gotta do that awkward shimmy to the front to pass the dollar or something, and then you gotta, excuse that.
There's also not even a set price. It's kind of like what you think you should pay between $1 to $3.
I feel like it's always between 75 cents and like $2 or something, depending on.
Yeah, you always gotta say, oh my god, guys. Okay, so the sushi came. It's quite sexy. I had to interrupt very quickly.
Just for context, Alanda ordered sushi.
Just for the context, I ordered sushi prior to this podcast, and guys, I'm not disappointed. The presentation is sexy.
I'm proud. I'm very content. I mean, I remember a time when Rachel thought sushi was the grossest-ish on earth and wouldn't even go near a roll.
You have not been there yet. You need to go there. And then you need to try one.
You gotta get her with like the tempura. You gotta get her with a tempura shrimp. It's cooked and it tastes great. And then once and then you slowly go. You move. You go to some California rolls.
What they need to make for Jakisha?
Seaweed. What I can't deal with that.
Then
you already taste that is wrapped in.
Yeah, you really
it's wrapped in rice and all that. You know what they need to make for Jakisha? Like a fat rib, and then just wrap that in rice, and then throw some barbecue sauce on it. It's not really a sushi, but like it's
a similar idea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I love sushi all day, every day.
Yeah, like. So you were saying Alanda public transport, on St. Martin. It is simple, but.
Oh, also, a government that isn't too corrupt. That's also a nice one.
That is a great
That's
one.
asking too much.
Great.
That one, it's not going to happen because
We're
every
overstepping.
time the Dutch try to come in and create some accountability, they say we're getting oppressed. So it's not going to happen. Like, there's just...
Right.
So let's
forgot. I didn't know I was oppressed until I was being told I was oppressed the other day.
Right?
I was
like,
oh, really? That's what it is by the Dutch.
I'm like, I didn't know this was oppression. This is what oppression looks like.
Yeah, man.
I genuinely had no idea it was the Dutch that were oppressing me and not my own government. My apologies.
Right. It's funny. It's really ironic. And it's, I totally get why they want to do decolonization, but we can get into that after.
It's not in the right place. Not in the right place right now to be decolonizing.
What would you change,
Anyway,
Rachel?
sorry, guys. So what was a new world development
that we would like to bring back? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we coming up here and how Holland does a bunch of recycling.
Oh, that's sexy. You're right.
Yeah, which became like a normal thing, and then you go back down. And you're like, wait, where is the plastic bin? Why am I throwing everything in one garbage bag?
Oh, you can drink water from the tap. That's sexy.
Oh, that's one.
That's also a privilege. Honestly, when I went back home in December, I was like, I caught myself coming home one night and I opened up the tap to drink from it, and then I spit it out immediately. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get dysentery and die,
Hey, that's the water that built your immune system, Missy. Like,
I mean, no. I was drinking filtered water my entire life. Sorry, not me.
Oh, boy.
Living on an island surrounded by water.
this is true.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, we only use desalinization.
Which they pump from the pond, no?
No, they pump it from Point Blanche. There's water. I'm pretty sure the place is in Point Blanche somewhere. And they pump out water from the ocean, and they do that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, maybe it's good because climate change is about to destroy the island anyway. So maybe while they suck out some water while they can.
Is not good on the fence. Like they tell you not to brush your teeth with water.
Really?
Sure. What are you supposed to do with bottled water then?
Ew.
Who the fuck
I didn't know this.
That's bougie.
That was actually a really big issue on the front side. Like they had strike and everything.
That's
So then
really
showering,
weird.
you just don't shower with your mouth, like you don't.
shower
Sounds
and
like-
everything, but you just shouldn't brush. Like they wouldn't. They said that they wouldn't recommend you brushing your teeth with the water because there's salt in it.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah,
That
I
is-
don't know.
like-
Mm-mm.
So I guess a proper water system would be a good one to bring back.
There's a lot of things, man. Jay, what would you change? What would be one thing you'd bring back from the States?
Customer service and credit.
Credit?
Customer service.
I thought we were the friendly island. We were supposed to have great customer
I'm sorry, we the
service.
island of what you want.
When I mean by customer service, I mean proper greeting.
Yeah.
You asked me to go for my break? You asked me leaving? Miss, but I was next in line. Nah.
I from here, I go in front of the line.
It is really bad. For me, I would bring back just all of America's telecommunication, just everything. Technology is like a major. I remember I was just trying to understand how our telecom sector is run, and it's like really concerning, the lack of knowledge within the department that's regulating the policies that unfortunately to some degree affect our ability to grow as an economy. You know what I mean? Like if we don't have stable Wi-Fi, like how do you expect businesses to scale to e-commerce? How do you expect people to come here and work remotely? Like there's all of these things that are contingent on having like a strong digital infrastructure. But then again, we don't even have a ministry that's just for telecom, which there should be. And it's sad because our people don't see they are the ones suffering because the leaders that they are elected, who are the same people that I think have been in these positions since before we were even born, are not doing bare minimum. You know what I mean? Like,
But there's a things, it's not just about the technological infrastructure on St. Maarten, but it's the fact that educational infrastructure is not even there. So by default, you're already, maybe it's a conspiracy theorist thought, but I genuinely think that if you don't have equal access to good public education, you're keeping your population stupid. There are so many people right now there are people who are illiterate on St. Maarten, and I'm sure the percentage is alarming enough to be like, why is it like that? I genuinely think that the focus on, I genuinely think the focus of like education and proper public health care is non-existent in St. Maarten. And it also ranges from the fact, how can you have economic prosperity if you don't have educated people? And the whole reason like we suffer from the brain drain is that even once you're educated, you're told that you're overqualified. So sorry, but you have to start an entry-level job and get entry-level pay. When in reality, your coworker George is not as educated as you, not as well versed, but because he has seniority, he's the one who can pay more.
Or he's like related to the head person.
I watched this interview like between Ralph Kontov and Dennis Richardson, who's former governor, and I believe he was also a former minister of justice on St. Maarten, and he was saying that essentially, like, this is kind of where the whole kind of decolonization, oppression stuff comes from in a way as well. But he was saying that when St. Maarten got independence in like 10, the Dutch neglected their responsibility to properly train St. Maarten's government officials on how to run a country. And as a result, because tourism was the only aspect of like our industry that was profitable, that was the only like sector that got any attention. And as a result, like all public service sectors like education and healthcare were neglected, and that's why they're in the state that they're in today. That's what I heard from that. What I do know is that St. Maarten does spend the majority of its budget on education, but I just don't understand what we have to show for that. And I don't think there's any data to measure high school dropout rates, retention rates, like how kids are actually doing from year to year. Like even at where we went to high school, once you finish that exam, that just goes in your file. It's not like anyone ever goes back and tries to fill those knowledge gaps. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, you barely passed, that's good enough for us. We're just going to keep pushing you forward. And as a result, you have like all of these kids that aren't actually prepared for college, that either go abroad and struggle significantly because the education system left so many gaps in their education, or they can't even afford it because, let's be real, we have to pay international tuition fees even though we barely get any financial aid from the government or from the international community. And it just sucks.
This is in America.
Oh, I mean, yeah, if you study, if you're an international student and you're studying like in the US or Canada, or if you were international in the Netherlands, you're right. Yeah, because a lot of kids do go to the Netherlands. But even still, like there's kids that drop out because the Dutch system is stricter. And
to an extent,
what do you mean by the Dutch system is stricter?
Because from what I understand, like you guys, like if you don't meet a certain level, you like get kicked out of the program. Whereas like in the States, you just have to retake the class. Like it doesn't matter how many times you fail.
I don't know if every college or university does that, but normally like in the first year, they have these things called ECTs. So in your thing, it'd be credits. And you need to get a certain amount minimum in order to pass the first year to get your associate's degree, like propedeuse in Dutch.
You only have to worry about credits for us at the end, not really like during the process.
Yeah.
It's just to graduate.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't really care. It's like if you want to pay the university money 5, 6, 10 years, and not get a degree, like they're not gonna stop you.
Where I got my bachelor's, the hotel management program had that, but my program, tourism, didn't have that.
Oh, interesting.
It just depends on the program. But I don't know, Alanda, how's it by you?
Nationally, in your first year, you have to achieve 51 out of 60 European credits. And after that, it's just so you retain students in the first year so that they're motivated to continue through. And those who usually don't meet the 51, there's either like, personal issues or like you weed out like basically the students,
I mean, we have weed out classes too.
Wait, is this 51 for the year or like
the first year?
No, No, it's just in the first year. So you stay within the school. You know, it's supposed to be a motivation factor. And
Did
then
APs
for that,
transfer
No,
credits for you
Pardon?
guys?
no.
what?
Did
With what?
APs
No.
transfer?
No. Okay, so this is the thing. Rachel and I went to University of Applied Sciences. If we were to go to just a university, I don't know how to explain the difference between the two. It's such a fine line in the Netherlands.
There's
So,
there's hogeschool, which is a college level, and then there's university level.
not even that is a standard thing in terms of the level of education. Because, for example, with my school, it's more advanced than what they define as a local school. And it's the same thing with other universities I find in the Netherlands as well that are called University of Applied Sciences with the term college, you know, because I still find the level of education you receive from these establishments that aren't quote unquote universities are quite high.
Yeah. But how they describe it is like universities is more theory,
Yeah.
while homeschool is more like, of course, theory, but
Lab
also
work.
you're doing things more. It's more like hands-on stuff as well.
That's interesting. For us, it is a mix of theory and labs and projects. So it's like you kind of get a bit of everything. That's just a part of your major track. You have a series of classes you have to take, and then you can kind of pick your concentration within like your major. And as long as you reach like the number of credits you need to graduate, and you apply for graduation, and they mail you a piece of paper, thousands of dollars later. Yeah.
And you're not even sure if you're gonna get a job.
This is true. But fortunately for me, like my university, at least for, I don't know other colleges in the university, but at least for engineering, they have career fairs and just like a lot of opportunities to talk with companies, because companies recruit heavily from my university. I was never thinking about work. It was like my university kind of pushed it in my face, and I was like, oh, look, this is what people do. And it kind of like pushed me down that path. But I know like in other schools, they don't.
Where you work, Harsha?
Oh, I work at Microsoft. Yes. What do I do? So I am a hardware engineer for the sensors quality team. What that means is my team essentially tests and verifies all the sensors and all Surface products across like all the product lines. But yeah, I'm working on the Surface Duo, which is the mobile line that Microsoft started, which is pretty dope because it's new. But see, that's what I do.
Hands behind Microsoft.
See, I know. Like, I'm excited for when the product comes out, because then I can be like, ooh, like I actually worked on that.
I helped on that.
What?
Since you have been working for Microsoft, would you consider yourself investing or being a shareholder, like a share owner of the company?
I'm usually, as part of your offer package, they offer shares in the company. And then also every year, like you go through like your review cycle, and then depending on like if you're getting promoted or if you're getting a bonus, sometimes that could be in cash or it can be in stock. So yeah, they definitely want you to be a vested interest in the company, because then obviously you have more incentive to make the company grow. And then another thing they have is, because you work for the company, they also allow you to buy shares of the company with your salary at like a discount. But the IRS be coming for you, so don't even think that you could try to sneak away. They get every penny that they need. Trust me.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, there's no way that isn't conditional. Like, there's definitely...
Oh, yes. Yeah, the IRS, they don't play games.
The American version of the tax office sounds hella scary. Like, the IRS, here it's called belasting, and that sounds like... I don't know what's worse, but like IRS just sounds like the FBI is going to show up at your door and ask for your kids in exchange for what you didn't pay because you didn't pay it.
No IRS on your back, buddy.
Yeah, you want to just pay what you got to pay and just be done. Or like be smart, just do what you got to do. There's rules, there's accounts, figure it out.
Well, my mother always said something to me that I find is very important in her list of references. All you have to do in life is die and pay taxes. So,
all you have to do in life is die.
And stay black.
Exactly, because pay taxes. But, if you want to live the straight and narrow life, taxes are the bare minimum, right?
I guess. But what do you guys do? Like I told the people what I do. What are you guys studying or studied? Because we do have some graduates in the room.
Well, guys, I also work at Microsoft. They just don't know it yet. No, I have a bachelor's degree in international tourism management, and then now I do a pre-master's in media and media and creative industries. Wow, almost didn't know what the fuck I was studying. Sorry?
Wait. What did you ask? I can't hear.
She asked, "What do I plan on doing with that?"
Your master. What are you gonna do?
That's why she picked up another
These
study
are questions that I cannot answer right now.
She can answer. She just doesn't want to tell the people them, which is okay. It's okay.
What I plan on doing with my degrees? I don't know. Especially during a pandemic, I can't be given that answer right now. I don't know.
Yes, you can ask the universe and you shall receive.
Well, currently I'm trying to get my bachelor's degree. Hashtag it's been a hustle and a struggle. Shout out to my parents. But I study hospitality business management, and I will be getting a bachelor degree in business administration. And right now I am searching on the very scarce job market for an internship in public relations, marketing and communications, and or human resource management. But from what I've from speaking with people, I've heard human resource management will make me cry. So I'm not really down for that. I prefer to not cry about my job. You know, it's already going to be a 9 to 5, and that's enough to cry about. But right now I've put myself on the job market, some may say. To be honest, I know it sounds kind of lame, but it's what I'm good at. I would love to be someone's personal assistant. I have fantastic organization skills that would truly be well used if I could be someone's PA. I would love to be someone's PA. And for a big company, just I know it sounds lame, but I think it's something that I'm good at and that I would enjoy. You know, the idea that everything has a place and everything should be in that place it makes life so much more efficient. And I feel like it's a very important way to like live life. So yeah, that's my dream job. But when I want to work for myself, I would love to open up a consultancy agency for customer service in the Caribbean.
Yes.
You know, I'm not even going to lie to you. I could give it 10 to 15 years right now, and the island will still not have fantastic customer service. So that's kind of in the pipeline for me, but not yet. I feel like I need to work for somebody else before I work for myself.
That's awesome. What about you, Jay?
So I currently finished my bachelor in science in biology. And I'm trying to finish up my minor in marketing right now. And then I plan to move to Miami next year to shadow a doctor, gain some experience, to hopefully bring back home a team so that we can, you know, save the lives of St. Maarten instead of sending them out of the country.
Feel that.
Save lives, one plastic surgery at a time.
That's I honestly want to bring down like a team of healthcare workers, like concentrated workers, like not like general doctors, because we need.
That is amazing.
Specialized.
It's plastic surgery that you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I want to specialize in, but I want to bring down a team of doctors also.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward to that. Because, yeah, I know, like, when I even left, like, I wanted to do biomedical engineering because of the very fact that our healthcare system is, I don't even know what it is, you know? And it's really a shame because there's so many people, their lives, unfortunately, had to end earlier than maybe they would have needed to because of the lack of, like, proper resources on our island. And it's just like unfortunate, you know. It's like our people deserve better than that. You know what I mean? Like all after everything they've been through, you know, it's like don't they want more than that for themselves? And you would think like our leaders would want more for our people, but it seems they are content. So,
well, yeah, as long as that more stops with them.
Do you guys see yourself? I know, like Alanda and Jay, you both said like eventually you would move back or like go to the island. Rachel, do you ever see yourself moving back to St. Maarten or doing like business there?
Okay, that changes things. Doing business there, possibly. Moving back, no. A negative aspect about growing up on St. Maarten is the isolation of it. it's funny because we are surrounded by diversity, but only within limits. I feel like living on St. Maarten, we're kind of secluded from the rest of the world. And then we come to these big places and we're like, shit, we've been missing out on so much. Once I've experienced that, and I have, to move back to St. Maarten is just like, just ain't it.
For me, it would be hard right now to move back to St. Maarten because I would have to give up a lot to go back there. Like in terms of just like job prospects, you know, like I for sure would not necessarily have maybe my salary or the benefits, you know, that I get, you know, working for Microsoft. I would have that same opportunity on St. Maarten. But at the same time, it eats me out knowing that like St. Maarten could be better. You know what I mean? It like bothers me to my core that the island is missing out and is behind. And so for me, it's like, okay, maybe I can't be there right now, but at least I'm going to try my best to help the people that are there now get to where they need to be so that I can actually move back and build something there. Because, yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Like, it's to take someone's got to do the work, you know? And it's like, well, if you adults ain't going to do it, I'm going to try.
Some people are. There are some people trying, but I mean,
For sure.
I feel like a lot of the people that's in the government is very resistant with change for the better. You know, so it makes it even more hard to.
But sometimes I don't know, because sometimes I think it's a money problem, but then I don't completely understand like how they use their money to really determine if it's a money problem. But at the same time, I feel like they also are spending money on things that they shouldn't be spending money on that could go to the actual country.
I think to an extent it is a money problem in terms of like where is it going. It's also a qualification problem. There's a lot of people who are working in jobs that don't have the qualifications that those jobs require.
But how do we fix that if all the qualified people don't want to go back there?
I don't know.
So it's like eventually it's like someone has to give, you know, either like me or Jay or even you and Alanda, we all have degrees. At some point, we are those qualified people. And I think on some level, it's like you have to create the market, you know, even if they don't want to do it. Like, even if that's why I think it might take longer, like some people have to be abroad so that they can build their foundation so they can go back, you know, because you can't help someone if you can't help yourself. But
True.
yeah, eventually, I mean, it's either going to be like they filled these positions with foreigners that are qualified, or they somehow convince the youth that are qualified to stay. But it shouldn't be foreigners, because I think like we understand what it's like to live on St. Maarten more than someone else that doesn't know anything about actually living there. You know, like our people.
Then again, there are some jobs that you wouldn't typically get locals to do, like
this is true.
Anything with like labor and the garden, you know, these are like things that most foreign cultures do.
I see your point.
And
it's interesting.
Still, this money does not stay on the island because they send in the money to their homeland and their family wherever they are, you know. So
yeah. And it's interesting because, like, I remember, like at least in, like, the Melee episodes, they talk a lot about that a lot of St. Martiners have, you know, history working in other islands and sending money back to St. Maarten, because there was a time where St. Maarten was a poverty-stricken island, worse so than it is today. And it's, like, interesting, like, now that St. Maarten, on some degree, you know, is the money pot, you know, for the Caribbean, and other immigrants are coming to our island for jobs, that the people that live there are now upset about that. You know, when, like you mentioned, there are many positions that a local maybe feels too entitled to work, that an immigrant would be happy to do, because for them, they're doing it for, you know, a greater cause. It's not necessarily about pride. Despite being a diverse country, St. Maarten does have, like, its own internal tribalism issue where, like, you have locals that hate foreigners or hate, you know, certain, you know, demographics, you know, publicly say, you know, really rude or inappropriate things about specific cultures that maybe they don't consider to be St. Martiners. I guess, like, for you, what do you guys consider to be a St. Martiner? Because I know for everyone it's like a little different.
I don't know. That's like asking a question, what really defines a local in general? And that's really hard to define, I feel, you know, because it could be like somebody who has extended family and then they move back to St. Maarten. Could be a foreigner who moves to Yeah, it could be. You have a foreigners who have moved to St. Martin years ago and have spent the rest of their life on St. Martin. Does that make them a local? Are they still a foreigner?
Yeah, okay. I would like to put my 2 cents into this conversation. And
Go ahead, illegal alien.
okay, first of all, this is discrimination. This thing is not sport anyway. No, but it's funny because I think as people from the West Indies, there's a unifying element to being from a different Caribbean island, which is all great and dandy. But when it comes to like, quote unquote foreigners taking your jobs, but they've been doing it for the past 15, 20 years, it's only when you don't, because let's not lie. The people of St. Martin are so entitled. The arguments that they have for certain things, like our government is too entitled, and that's why they do things with whatever they're doing now, trying to decolonize without even trying to, give that idea or like place that idea in as a popular vote or something of the sort to see what the
They don't
idea
want
is.
your vote, Alanda. They know what they want, and it's not your opinion.
Well, shit, if I had known that, I guess I would have voted for dictatorship or an oligarchy over democracy, wouldn't I?
Isn't that what we have, though?
We pretty much have an oligarchy, yes.
They just call themselves different parties, but...
Yep, exactly. But I want to come back to the thing, I know that sometimes my own dad, who is from St. Lucia, even he gets this from people in St. Martin saying, oh, why don't you go back to your country? And sometimes the idea is that, oh, the white man is going to take our jobs. The Europeans are the ones that are taking their jobs. So inevitably, my dad is another man from the Caribbean. In my eyes, he's a local, But I have this idea that, once again, going back to my first point, when you're from the Caribbean, I feel like we should be unified because we're all from small places and we're all just trying to better each other's economies,
Yep.
And
Exactly.
we should be more dependent on each other than we are on larger countries, because then the whole region can prosper economically. Rachel's right. Well, how do you really define a local, especially from St. Martin, Because I've lived in Antigua and I've lived in St. Lucia as like an adult, and nowhere near the diversity of the population in St. Martin, And there's like subtle microaggressions and racism in St. Martin, for example, which is something that I never felt was right. We would say, like, why are you acting like a Haitian? Haitians are hardworking people, may I add. Big off my Haitians, But I just think these things occur way too much when you've been living on an island that's just composed of minorities. You're a local. Like, once you immerse yourself in the culture, you're there working a job, you have a family, you have a life, you become a local. For some, I may even argue, of course, I like to make sure that as I'm in the Netherlands, I still, I'm still very patriotic about being from the West Indies. But I would consider myself a local of the Netherlands. It's not that I am Dutch. That's definitely not how I identify. I don't speak the language, but I feel like there's a certain tie to this country that allows me to switch from being a tourist and being someone who is just there temporarily to someone who is local. Because, I plan on continuing my life here for a little longer. And I mean, Harsha, it's not that you're an American, no, but do you feel that you are a local within the States now?
I see what you mean. When you define local as like, feeling
That
like a resident.
Is shaking her head.
Jakisha is definitely not feeling like a local in America. I definitely do see it, yeah. I definitely do feel more like I mean, my ID says I'm a Washingtonian. I don't know how you pronounce.
That's a thing.
Yes, each state, I was a Michigander for 4 years, because I had a Michigan ID. Now I have a Washington state ID. And I have a St. Maarten ID, and I have a Dutch passport, but I also have, a green card, So it's like there's all these different dynamics to like one's identity. But I still consider myself a St. Martiner first, like before anything else. And even though my parents are also immigrants to St. Martin, my mom moved to St. Martin when she was a young girl. My father moved like in his 20s from India. Am I a St. Martiner because my parents don't have, lineage on the island? And I used to feel like people would question my right to claim being a St. Martiner because of the fact that my parents technically moved to the island. So there's like even dynamics there where people try to make you question your right to speak about matters on the island. But I feel like a local is anybody that genuinely cares about the well-being and the future and the growth of St. Martin. You don't have to live there necessarily to feel that way. There's people that are born there that move abroad. There's people that, like you said, retire there and they wish to invest in the community. And I do think those people should be included in the community because they care about the betterment future of this island. And I think as long as anyone has good intentions for the future of St. Martin, we should be able to embrace them because, again, the island is made up of immigrants from the beginning,
Yeah, there's no need. It's like, I feel like it all comes back to this sense of entitlement with certain things when, depending on the tone of that message. But then again, I also must say I'm the first person I get irritated with people who claim St. Martin but don't actually know St. Martin. I don't know if anybody else has it, but it's like, you show up, you do, like, let's just give an example. You show up, you do a 6-month internship in the country, and so there's a very fine line between defining someone who is a local and someone who's there temporarily and just enjoys the island as like vacation. But then again, do we consider some tourists who invest in properties in St. Martin and have like, vacation homes there and rent them out? Do we consider them locals? I just don't. The idea
it gets cloudy very quickly, for sure.
You can also see some people do it as like a trend too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful to be from St. Martin. It's exotic, you're different.
But it's like people who are, and this also goes back to what defines a local, and which you really said, it's a blurry, it's not just black and white. There's a lot of things that can define a local and define a St. Martiner. But sometimes you see people using that they're from the islands or that they have lineage from the islands as a trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it makes them seem interesting. It makes them seem like quote unquote exotic.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's like, I don't use, being from St. Martin to be exotic. Like, that is where I am from, Like, I have, like, if I'm getting deported, that's where they're gonna ship me, Like, I'm not, like, I feel like I definitely noticed this when I came to the States, is that there were people around me that, weren't necessarily from the Caribbean, but had maybe family ties to the Caribbean that wanted to speak about the Caribbean as though they were from there. And it's interesting because it's like I'm Indian, but I'm not from India. And so I still consider myself an Indian, but I don't think I necessarily have the same, like, my opinions don't weigh as much on matters of what's going on in India, unlike someone that actually lives there and is dealing with these things, every day. But like, I thought it was interesting because I would see people that would claim and talk about the Caribbean in this way as though they were some expert, and it like really would offend me because I mean, I love where I'm from. I'm very proud to be from the Caribbean. And so anyone that talks down about my region without completely understanding the complexities as to why the region is in the state that it's in today really gets under my skin. And so like when people talk like even Jamaica or like St. Martin and they talk about like, oh, the power's unstable, or oh, they don't have running water, or oh this or oh that. I'm like, but you're just saying this from the outside looking in. You don't completely understand why this is the way that it is, and you're like sharing these opinions about a region that you don't completely know to these other people who don't know anything about our region, that are now going to internalize what you're saying to be like what they expect. And so when they move out in the world and they encounter someone that's actually from the region, they're going to bring up all of these stereotypes that you told them and project that onto someone like me. And then I have to take that, and then I have to hear people that question if I'm from the Caribbean because I don't have an accent. You know, like it's things like that that I'm just like, you know, like I'm sick of people always like, oh, are you really from the Caribbean? You don't sound like it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know I needed to prove my accent to you, you know?
Alanda and I have faced that. If you're from the Caribbean, why are you white?
Are you white? Right. Oh my God, it was really bad because you know what? It's not even like in a foreign I get these questions. It's in my own country I get these questions.
Oh,
I was in St. Lucia, and like you know, it is a majority Black society.
They never see you there.
Pardon?
She said they don't see you there. That's why.
Yeah, dog. Well, it doesn't matter because I'm sorry, but my parents are both St. Lucians. My parents are Creole. My parents grew up in St. Lucia. My parents' grew up like have ties. You know, it's just I don't have the accent. I'm not there, but I am I know what's going on. I feel a part of the country, but that's besides the point. You know, like so back to the thing. It's like you know I'm white and I'm in St. Lucia, and I don't come from a quote unquote privileged place in St. Lucia. Like, you know, you have certain areas of the island, like much like in St. Maarten, you have like the lowlands, you have Gone Beach, you have like these places where people are like, yo, this is where people with money, and that's also just an assumption, you know. Lowlands is money, we all know that, but there, you know, like there's just these assumptions tied behind it. And I had to the point where someone like didn't believe I was from St. Lucia. I had faked the ID, I had faked the address on it, and they had asked me where I live, and I told them, and they're like, okay, how many speed bumps are in front of the school? I knew how many speed bumps were in front of this place, and only then did they believe me.
That's a weird question to ask somebody.
You know, it's just like, why would I go through all of that trouble to just say I'm from here?
And I just feel like it would be weird for me to talk like the way that I would talk with like you guys, you know, with no one looking, you know, here in the States. Like to me to talk, you know, in St. Maarten English would get me nowhere, you know, and it's just like a lot easier. Exactly. So it's like I just naturally don't talk that way because I know it would be a waste of my time and your time for me to just talk that way. But that doesn't mean that like I don't, you know, like my accent isn't there. It's just, you know, buried right now.
I think another.
Yeah, exactly. I'm speaking more, you know, properly, you know, more standard.
Stop telling people they speak white. That's another thing.
That's just general.
Whoever saying that.
What do you mean? Rachel used to call me Oreo.
People used to call me Inside Out Oreo. So relax. You know the words, but like another stereotype, and I think Alanda have also faced. Yeah, we've gotten and it's like rude. It's not even like, oh, you're not Black. How are you from the Caribbean? But they use the N-word, so they're really digging in deep with a comment like that, which makes you go I want to take you on, but
it's
the
not
ignorance
worth my time.
is so deep.
It's
so like sorry. I'm not gonna do it.
You know that, and these people on
right. Somebody once told me that like I was trying to get away from them, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna bike home, and then they were like, you don't have a bike, you're from the Caribbean. You don't know how to ride a bike, you're from the Caribbean.
Like, who is you?
Like, cool. I'm gonna go now.
I must have taken it later on hammocks all day.
That's what I think people do think.
Walk everywhere. No, but I've gotten questions. I've gotten people who've said like they didn't think people lived on the islands. They thought people took boats to the islands.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever told people where you're from and then they introduce you to other people and they're like, oh yeah, that's so-and-so, they're from Jamaica?
I've gotten that.
I've had that, and that really like that.
They would hear my accent and they're like, oh my God, are you from Jamaica? And I'm just like, no, I'm from Sint Maarten. Like, oh my God.
Not in Jamaica.
It's like it
All they know
annoys
is Jamaica.
me.
Like the whole of Caribbean is only Jamaica.
Or they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, she's from
Or
Puerto
they might
Rico," and I'm
Yeah,
just like,
throw Puerto
"Bro,
Rico in there.
That's how I just have to explain them with some I was like, it's 30 minutes from Puerto Rico.
In the Netherlands, it kind of, for me, it makes sense when people ask me, like, oh, yo, do you know, I live in The Hague, and for those of you that don't know, that's basically like Dutch Antilles capital in the Netherlands.
Not girl, it's not Rotterdam.
No, well, both of them, because a lot of people I can sit down in front of one of the stations, Hollandsport, and I'll definitely see at least 3 to 4 people that I know. And there's people who are like, oh, do you know so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I find the Dutch Caribbean in the Dutch mother country, let's say, quote unquote, not, let's air quotations around that. You all decide that this is the place when you're coming from a smaller place that you're going to go get your education from, you know? Some people, that's the state. But if you have like access to an EU passport and it's Dutch, you're definitely going to go to school in Holland if you're from the island, because that's the more affordable option usually. So when someone asks, oh, I know this and this, it's actually like at least 7 times out of 10, I do know the person. So I think like when it happens here, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I do know the person. But if it would happen in the States and they'd give me like, yo, you know this person from Grenada or St. Vincent, I'd be like,
like, what do you think this is? You think we just have a Rolodex of every Caribbean person ever, and they're like, oh yeah, I know Sheila.
And also, like, I have friends who are mixed, who are light skinned, and they get you're so exotic.
I feel
and they sometimes fetishized because they look exotic.
It's true. It's really annoying. And I remember like when I first moved to the States, my major concern was just getting lost, because I was like, I had never been to this school. I have never been to this state. I don't know where is up and where is down. What is northeast? I don't know. I don't know what weather you're supposed to wear clothes for. I'm just trying to not get lost, you know, because that would be the worst thing, to get lost in another man's country and you just don't know anybody. Like, it was just me and my mom, you know. And yeah, I just remember like people definitely treated me different, especially within like the Black community at my university, because of the fact that I was not African American. And so I couldn't relate to a lot of the things that they would talk about, or like things that they would do, or just like perceptions that they had. I just disagreed with, because like where I grew up, you know, like race isn't the first thing you're forced to deal with, you know, like it's not like, you know, on St. Maarten, you don't deal with racism because of being Black, at least on St. Maarten. That's not really something you encounter. You know, it was just interesting because I felt like I was treated differently because I couldn't necessarily relate to the same struggles they had been through. And then even just from like the guys, I feel like because I was different, you know, and I had curly hair and I was from an island, you know, that they all probably really thought was Jamaica, you know, and it was just like, ooh, who is she, you know? But it's just like annoying, because it's like, how do I know that you like me for me, or you're just fetishizing me, you know, because I'm from some foreign land? But people always think I'm Ethiopian. I don't know. That's what I get all the time, which I guess I see it.
I see it.
But I just be like, no. And like people will like question me when I tell them I'm not. They're like, are you sure? Like, I think I would know.
Like, are you sure you're not Ethiopian? No, I'm pretty fucking sure that
I'm 100% sure. I took my DNA test, you know, and it turns out I'm more Indian than anything else. Which is, I mean, I guess not surprising, but
no, it's not.
I don't look it, you know. I'm definitely not treated like an Indian, which, I mean, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it's annoying when you go to an Indian restaurant and they try to explain you the menu, you know, and it's like, honey. I've been eating from day one. But yeah, that's definitely, I think I definitely had to prove my Indianness more in America than my Blackness, for sure. Because like Indians just don't, even if I say like my name, they're like,
what are you?
Yeah, this doesn't fit my image.
How are you that?
Wait, there are Indians that marry outside of their race, and these are their babies?
Have you actually been asked that question?
Yeah, people never believe my dad's my dad. I just
Well,
honestly, freshman year, I just gave up because I realized that this was the path that I would be headed down if I really tried
I
to be
remember.
involved in the community, like at least where I was going to school. So I just gave up and just lived my life and found
Hmm.
people
I
that I
remember
messed
him
with
talking about this.
and just continued about my day. And if if people that I was friends with that were Indian that accepted me as like Indian despite how I look on the outside, that's cool. And if they didn't, that's not my problem, that's their problem.
I understand where you're coming from with the like you have to prove that you're an Indian because like from the time and you like God forbid that your father married outside of his race or his ethnicity or anything of the sort. Because when my dad got married to my mom, she wasn't an Arab and she's never been an Arab, obviously. And I remember my parents telling me like, yeah, they came to the hospital to see what color you were because my mom was half black, and it's insane to me that's how you're gonna decide whether or not you accept me into your community. Bear in mind, I used to want to feel so strongly attached to being an Arab, but right now all that attaches me to the Arab community is food. I have an
So,
appreciation for the culture in general, but the Caribbean Arab community is a very hard place. It's not even, you don't have to be Muslim and an Arab. So I can only speak from the part of the Arab community that follows Christian beliefs. But damn, that's a hard. It's such a toxic environment, which I think is also very similar to the Indian community in which you're
it can be
discussing right
hard.
now.
It can be hard. I mean,
Yeah.
but I was going to talk about this because I'm going to have my parents on. So I'm going to talk about this with them, especially because my dad and my mom's like story of like how their relationship started and like the things that they heard from other people. Imagine if we were all blind, and like if we were to move around the world as though we were all blind, like race would never
Or at
be
least
an issue.
colorblind.
No, like just blind even. Like if you couldn't even see color and like you couldn't see, so you couldn't see if someone was black or white or, olive tone or red skin or whatever it is. Would racism exist? And frankly, I don't think it would, unless it would be voiceism, because like people would be racist according to someone's voice. You could be like, oh, I can tell that's a black man by his voice, so I'm gonna treat him differently. Because like if you can't, it's so stupid to me that people have
Yeah.
the audacity to hate someone because of the complexion of their skin, because just because of
Yeah.
how you look on the outside does not explain who you are on the inside. There's good
No,
and bad people in every race, you know what I mean? It's not the race that
Yeah.
differentiates if they're good or bad. They're everywhere.
Very.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
it's you would think it's as simple as being like you don't hang out with somebody because you're both are white. You hang out with somebody because you like their personality, you get along. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. You would think.
Literally that.
But you have a lot of people who grow up in environments where
They only
they're
see
taught that
them.
not that they're only see them, they're taught just subtle comments that their environment makes. It's just like they're taught that this race acts like this race acts like this one you can hang out with, this one you can't hang out with, and it's just
Yeah.
perpetuated throughout the generations. And it's just like it's so simple because you get along with somebody based on their character, yet you're judging people based on what your family says that you need to judge off of to not hang out
Yep.
with them based on their color.
Or
It's
other
like
things. It could be gender, it could be religion, it could be sexual
exactly.
orientation.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's things that are you don't pick that shit up on your own.
No, exactly. You genuinely do not.
And then when you
decide when I was born, guys, I want to be a Thai lady mixed with the Pacific Islands. That's
Yeah,
what
it's not like you got to
Exactly.
make a decision. And I
Yeah.
think people forget that. And I don't know. I feel like at some point though, shouldn't people be responsible for how they look at the world? Like at some level, like even if your environment taught you to
Yeah.
hate a certain race, you owe it to
You can
yourself
unlearn.
to grow as a person.
Yeah,
Just because,
you can
your
unlearn those
parents
things.
told you that, oh, X, Y, and Z, this is what makes someone successful, or like, oh, if the people that, smoke pot or whatever, like those are bad people. You should not be around those people. Like at some point, you need to be able to grow up and be like, okay, do I really agree? Because, like, parents tell you stuff, but half the time they don't even know. So they're just like
Yeah.
telling you based on what they think would keep you alive longest, but really they don't know. And so it's like you, as a person, owe it to yourself to think about stuff. Everything.
Not
Just think
just, yeah,
about it.
not just to question things, but also to know that the shit you've learned you can unlearn. Habits you have you can
You can undo.
change. You
Exactly.
can,
For me, humility and vulnerability are two very important things for development and like truly developing an open mind. When you can recognize the faults in yourself, then it's easier to accept the world around you and also know what you're willing to accept and tolerate, like what's your threshold. And I don't know, I just feel I never want to be stagnant in my thought process. I always, even though my first reaction to certain things might be like defensive, I really want to make sure that I can also admit, like, oh, it was wrong for me to be defensive. I shouldn't have said that, because I'm able to actually learn from this feedback. I'm actually able to take this point of improvement on perhaps maybe my attitude or my behavior, the way I'm doing something, without feeling like it's meant to harm me,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like hard to be vulnerable, and I feel like people today don't show their vulnerabilities as much. I think social media is slowly changing. I think people are trying to show their imperfections. But still, I think a lot of what we see is like a facade of people, just like an outer shell of people where they're trying to look perfect to the rest of the world, when it's really our humanity. Like you said, it's all our vulnerabilities. That's what makes us strong.
I don't think it's hard to be vulnerable. I think being vulnerable is easy. It's how we think it will be perceived by who we're being vulnerable with.
Or like
That's
judged.
right. I agree with Rachel. I
Yeah.
agree with Rachel. That's
Because
exactly what I was
it's
thinking.
easy to like it's so simple to just let your guard down, but
You're scared of being judged.
but you're scared of not only being judged, you're scared how it's going to be received, how it's going to go on from there. It's just, there's so much unknown around, okay, I've just been vulnerable with you. I don't know how this will go, and I don't know if this is about to get really shitty. So it's like, it's just a lot of trust after you've
But
become
it's
vulnerable.
also like in that's why knowing yourself when being vulnerable is important, because I think that if someone tried to make me feel insecure about myself, I know that it's only in that moment. It doesn't define me either, that comment or what they've said.
How do you guys handle navigating through sometimes your lack of confidence, or whether you're overthinking, just like that whole aspect of self-confidence and all?
So the way that, like, at least I look at it, like when I start to doubt myself, there's a few things that I do. At least one, I immediately disassociate from the voice that's doubting myself, and I'm like, you're doubting me. So like I make it a separate thing that's not me. It's just like a voice that's trying to protect me. And usually I look at that voice as my fear of failure, or me fearing like messing up and other people seeing me mess up. And usually when I create that dissociation between the doubt and the fear from who I am, I can see, like, I just look at it as something to overcome. It's not actually identified to me. It's not who I am. This is just a part of me that I need to overcome. Because everything we want, we can achieve. So it's just like, how do you overcome that doubt? And then I usually try to create steps, or I try to create a plan of some sort to allow me to accomplish whatever it is I'm afraid of.
Jerry, how do you do it?
Me, I just pray.
Do you overthink a lot?
I do overthink. I don't, probably right, I probably don't show it, but in my head, a lot of shit goes on in my thoughts. I don't say anything either, because I am a very quiet person when it comes to sharing my life.
And for me, I end up doing a lot of comparing. I even compare myself against you guys sometimes. I often think, like, when I'm doing that, I'm like, stop, I have to, for me to get out of the comparing in terms of achievements, I have to stop and think, like, every small step that I've done to get where I am is an achievement.
Mm-hmm.
And your chapter 40 is not my chapter 3 even. It's not comparable. And
Exactly.
so I really try to focus on, like, the now and not think too far ahead, because thinking about the future, and if I don't know and it's in a downward spiral kind of vibe of thoughts, I tend to think, I get anxious about it, and I don't want to feel anxious about my future. So it's really taking it, like Jakisha said, like day by day, and not thinking about two things that haven't even happened yet. Like, if we focus on the what if, we'll always be asking what if, what if, what if, like, yeah, what if I drop dead tomorrow, or no,
Knock on wood.
Like whatever. But you can't just live life
in fear, and just
fear of failure. So for me, it's just to try and live in the now and make sure that I don't think too far ahead that it's destructive. Self-destructive behaviors. So that's how I deal with that.
Yeah, I think that's a real big issue that I deal with overthinking, definitely, but also trying to stay in the present. I never really notice how often I'm focusing on what's next, until I'm sitting down and I'm like, what the fuck? I've been focusing on already what I'm going to eat tomorrow and what I'm going to do tomorrow, how I'm going to do this on Tuesday and this and this and this, and not even sitting down and kind of just being with myself and understanding, like, okay, I need to do today. I need to get through today.
And like when you're doing all of that planning for the future, or like reminiscing on the past, or like fixating on things that happened already, you're missing out Rachael of the now. And it's crazy how we are so used to thinking about the future or living in the past that a lot of people miss out on their version of themselves right now, which is gone. It was, it was here 2 seconds ago, and now this is a different version of me.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's and the overthinking as well, where it's spirals. Sometimes most of the time I'm able to pull myself back and like do what Jakisha and Alanda were saying, was just live it day by day. Just try to get through what you're worried about now, or what you're fearing now, instead of going down all the roads of how shit might go down. How creating
take the first step.
Yeah, exactly. Creating millions of scenarios of what could possibly happen when it could not even go those ways. It could go in an even better way than you think, or a worse way. It's learning experiences. But I think that's a big issue that I'm trying to like tackle as well. Just try to calm down with the overthinking and stop spiraling and stressing over things.
I feel like people miss out on the future because
they're so worried about that. And also I think it's also control. I don't know about you guys, but it's like realizing that it's okay to not have control over the outcome. It's okay to not have control about how you're going to get here and here and here. Just focus on doing what you can do now, and don't focus on things you can't control. And that I need to remind myself sometimes of that. Just like, you have no control of this situation, so stop stressing over what you cannot.
You can only do what you can do, and the rest, like, you have to hope the best. You have to hope everything else will work out. But you can only control what you can control. And I know, like, when COVID happened, like, I definitely had to remind myself. And I know, like, I've heard some people say you shouldn't live life kind of in regret, because, like, going off of that, you can only, you try to make the best decision with the information you have available. And so, like, that's how you live your life. And if things don't work out, like, you can't look back and be like, oh, maybe I should have done this or I should have done that, because it's like, well, you made the best decision you could, at the time. And so you can't go, like, hindsight is 2020. You can't go back and say, oh, I wish I did this differently, because, well, you did what you could then, and you can't be mad at a past version of you that you can't even go back and fix. You have to deal with the situation at hand.
I need these kinds of conversations, like even to do this podcast. And yeah, of course, we have topics that we have to knock off, but it reminds me that, oh yeah, I have purpose in life, like sometimes I feel like we forget our purpose, and not all of us know our purpose, or let's say, but it doesn't have to be your life purpose or whatever. This gives me purpose in life. Like, it adds to my character, it adds to how I feel. It makes me feel better, especially now, because like this pandemic shit is ass. It's really, it is niet lekker, man. It is not food. I don't like it. And, having this interaction makes the world a difference.
Yeah.
Aww. Well, I think we should, I want to end on that because that was so beautiful. Oh, that means so much. And I mean, you guys shaped who I am. I am who I am partially because I hung out with you guys. I feel like at the end of the day, I love you guys more than anything. Even I don't see you guys every day, but I'm still these are my OGs. My bridesmaids, I already got 3 on dial. I'm already for me, it doesn't matter the distance, or the time. You guys are some of my favorite people in the world to be around. I grew up with you guys, and it's you spend so much time with people. And then you leave them and you're like, oh shit, do they still fuck with me? Your existence means so much to my life. Just even you don't have to do anything other than just exist and be in my life and talk to me. And that makes my life already worth living, So it's crazy how people, I think, sometimes forget that our purpose is also to be there for each other.
And to love one another.
And to love one another. Through everything. Yeah. But how can people, I know, Alanda, you're off the IG at the moment, but how can people, stay in touch with you guys or learn more about you guys and what you guys are up to?
Well, I have a Facebook. It's my name, Alanda Solomon. Good luck finding it. I have a middle name. I mean, if you guys want to take notes, I might open up my Instagram in 2 months. It's Landa X Panda. You will not regret following it. Don't do that.
It's a fun feed. It's definitely a fun feed. I love watching your rants from time to time.
Thank you. We do great rants. They're very informative on my page. So tune in when it happens, whenever it happens.
Yeah, and I'm also on Instagram. It is I don't do rants, so go to Alanda X Panda's page for some rants.
But if you want the fun, light Rachael Queen, you gotta go to Rachael.
Raw_Chell. Don't ask me about the name, okay? Raw without an underscore Chell was taken. So it is what it is.
And when she says raw, it is the rolling paper, RAW.
Heads out there, it's the raw rolling paper.
It's the raw dog. It's the raw accent when Jakisha was real hot on that Sint Maarten.
Well, yeah. Then Jay.
You can find
Jakisha's number is 52016.
But you don't know, you can check out my Instagram at Keisha_X_NB. That's at Keisha_NB. For those that hear it in the back.
And don't worry, I'm gonna add all of these in the description so you guys can see all the spellings so you can get it right. Because these are some amazing humans that you should definitely follow, because they not only inspire me to be awesome every day, they are just genuinely amazing people. New episodes every third Wednesday. Follow us on Instagram at the.chattabox.